Hey everyone, welcome to Midnight Whisperer, a place where real stories from Reddit's darkest threads come to life. If you crave mystery, fear, and the thrill of the unknown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Now, let's step together into the shadows of today's story. My job is watching a woman trapped in a room. 3 years ago, I was looking at the local job classifieds online when one of the ads caught my eye. Not because of what it said, but because it said so little. Best I remember, the ad just read Job. Available, good pay, no benefits, discretion required. It then listed an email address, and that was all. At the time I was managing a music store, but I had already started hearing rumors we would be shutting down within the next year end. The likelihood of a transfer to another store was slim. I had been morosely looking at job listings for the last few days, but this was the first one that stood out, if only because I was bored and it was weird. So I sent an email. Half an hour later, I had a response, telling me to go to a particular office building in an upscale part of the city at a precise time for my screening. I went, and after waiting for a few minutes in the lobby, I was taken into an office where I was given a series of forms and questionnaires to fill out. They collected them and told me they would be in touch. I had almost forgotten about the whole thing until a month later I got a call saying I had moved on to the second stage of the hiring process. I was again given an address and time, and when I arrived this time, it was a different nice office park, 20 miles away from the first one. I was met by a man who introduced himself as Mr. Solomon. He escorted me into a large room that contained a chair and a desk. On the desk were 2 large monitors, a keyboard and mouse, and a bolted down metal box with 2 oversized buttons on it, one red and one green. He told me this room was a model for the place I would be working if I took the job. He described the job as follows. I would be working 7 shifts of 6 hours every week. My job would be simple. I would arrive at work 10 minutes early and enter an outer area that was like a locker room. I would have my own personal locker. I would store all belongings in the locker and change into the provided work clothes. I was never, under any circumstances, to carry any item of my own into the surveillance room. I was never, under any circumstances, to take any item with me from the surveillance room. As for what I was to do in the surveillance room, I was told that the monitor on the left would constantly show a live stream from a high-definition camera. In a remote location, my job was simply to watch the camera. Once an hour I would get onto the computer attached to the right monitor and enter a brief log describing anything interesting that occurred in the last hour. I would have no pens or pencils or paper, and I should never try to take any kind of written notes about the work. As for the red and green buttons, the red button was only to be used if there was an emergency. This meant something on the video or in my workspace that required outside help. The green button was to be hit if I saw something on the video feed that was particularly noteworthy. It would tell other people somewhere that, at least in my opinion, something interesting was going on. Solomon stressed that while I was given discretion on when to use this button, I should err on the side of only using it if and when something of real significance occurred. He pointed out the camera on the ceiling of the room we were in. He said the real room would be the same. My work would be observed, and other people were watching the room on the video feed as well. He said I was only a redundancy in case other systems failed. He then smirked and asked if I knew what he meant by redundancy. I nodded, trying not to show my irritation. I don't talk that good to people, so sometimes they think I'm dumb. That's okay. Let him think that if he paid me good enough, the pay was very good. $35 an hour. This worried me. I was already thinking this was some kind of psych experiment or secret government job, which I was okay with, but that kind of money to sit and watch a screen. My mum always told me that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is, and this was seeming too good to be true. I asked if I was going to be doing anything illegal. Solomon laughed and said no. I asked if anyone was going to get hurt. Again, he shook his head no. He said the reason they were paying so much was because they needed employees that were motivated to be professional and discreet. The work they were doing was important, and for various reasons, it couldn't be discussed. If I took the job, I would have to sign papers promising I would never discuss my work there, or I could be sued or locked up. I'm only breaking that now because of everything that's happened. So I took the job, and because they wanted me to start right away, I had to quit the store with no notice. I felt bad about that, but I was excited about the new job too. It was a lot of money and seemed like easy enough work, if a bit boring. I was nervous that there was something more to it, but I told myself I would just have to see. No point in chickening out and wasting a good chance, because I let my imagination go crazy. I was given the location of the job itself, and when I went there, I was amazed that it really was just like the model room I had been shown, with only a few differences. There was a locker room you had to pass through to enter the surveillance room, and there was a small bathroom attached to the real surveillance room also. The real room had a small water cooler in the corner, but because I wasn't allowed to bring anything in with me, I had to eat before or after every shift. The biggest difference, of course, was that the monitors were turned on. The right monitor was just a black and white terminal like you see in movies sometimes. I could type in my logs, but no internet to look at or anything like that. The left monitor. It was video from a room. You would call it a bedroom, I guess, because it had a bed in it, but it had lots of other stuff too. A TV, a sofa and chairs, a couple of tables, and plenty of empty space in between. The camera must be high up in a corner, because I could see pretty much everything except for the far sides of furniture. At first though, I didn't notice any of that stuff. All I saw was her. She looked to be a little older than me and was very pretty. When I first saw her, she was laying on her side on the sofa. That was the part of the room farthest from the camera, but the picture was very clear and I could tell that she was sleeping. I found myself leaning into the monitor more so I could see her better. And then I thought about what I was doing and felt embarrassed. It's like I was spying on her. A peeping Tom, my mom used to call it. I didn't want to be a peeping Tom, but I didn't want to be silly either. I needed to think about it slow. It was a good job, and I wasn't doing anything wrong, right? I wasn't hurting anybody. The woman looked fine, and the room was nice. She probably agreed to be there, and it's all some experiment or something. I was just overreacting, so I sat down in the chair and began my work. It didn't take long before I understood more. The woman I took to calling her Rachel wasn't there of her free will. I never saw her hurt, but it was clear that she never left that room except to go into what I think is a bathroom area that my camera couldn't see. Well, she never left the room on her own. Periodically, usually a couple of times a week, during my shifts, men and women in strange-looking outfits would come in and take her from the room. Sometimes she would struggle, but usually she would just go along with her head hung low. they would always bring her back, though the times when she wasn't brought back during my shift were always the worst for me. I would worry about her until I got to work the next day and saw her in the room watching TV or painting. She never looked hurt or even that upset, except for when they took her, and even when she fought, they were always gentle with her. Still, I knew something was wrong. I considered quitting the job or hitting the red button and getting someone to come so I could get some answers, or calling the police and showing them what the camera was showing me. Except I was scared of losing my job and scared of what these people might do to me if I quit or told on them. Solomon had told me when I took the job that part of being discreet was not asking questions. I would never be asked to do more than I had already been told, but I could never tell anyone what I did or saw, and I could never ask questions about what I was doing or why, so I made excuses. It was all an experiment. She was crazy or sick, and they were trying to help her. She was doing a job just like I was. Or if she really was a prisoner somewhere, at least I was watching to make sure that she was okay. If they ever tried to hurt her, or I saw that she really didn't want to be there for sure, I could get help then. In a way, I told myself, I was helping to protect her by watching. I don't expect you to think much of my excuses. I don't think much of them myself, especially now. But in my defense, when things changed, I didn't ignore it or try to explain it away. I knew something had to be done. Rachel would usually paint for an hour or two every day, and it seemed to always be during my afternoon shifts. The room had no windows as far as I could tell, but I guess she either used a clock or her own bodies. Time to keep to a kind of schedule. I always liked to watch her paint. The thing she was painting was always facing the wrong way for me to see it, but I could see her face as she worked. She always looked peaceful and happy when she was painting, and seeing her that way, smiling serenely from time to time as she got something the way she wanted it, always made my day. I first noticed something was wrong when she started painting. More frequently a few weeks ago, her expression was more focused and serious, and there was a tension to her movements that I wasn't used to seeing. At first I thought she was just really trying to work hard on something, and I wanted to tell her not to worry. Every few weeks the others would come in and take the old paintings out anyway, bringing in a new stack of, I think the word is canvas, but it was more than her being focused. Something was wrong. She didn't look happy, and she was going for hours at a time. In the span of 3 days, she had finished 4 paintings. I had been growing more and more worried watching her work, and when she finished the 4th, I found myself telling her to just stop and rest a while. I had grown accustomed to talking to the monitor, talking to her in my own way, but she didn't stop. Instead, she began moving the paintings, arranging them on the back and seat of the long sofa at the far end of the room. This was the first time I had gotten to see any of the paintings. Even when the others were taking them out, they always seemed to be turned away from the camera. I was still worried about her, but I was also happy to finally see something she had worked on. Happy and amazed. They were beautiful. One was a beautiful green forest. Another was an old stone well. A third was a house sitting alone on a small island. The last was an old-fashioned looking movie theater. All of them looked like something out of a dream, with trailing lines of color mixing in the air around them like leaves caught in a wind. It was only when I looked close that I realized the lines of color weren't random. They were words. Easy to miss if you weren't looking close, and by themselves, they didn't seem to mean much. Just the ghost of a word somewhere in each of the paintings, easy to lose in everything else that was being shown. I leaned into the monitor and squinted, trying to read the words. Then my heart started thudding as I made them out. Blinking and rubbing my eyes, I looked again, reading them out loud in order left to right. Top pair, then bottom. Please, help me. Thomas. I pushed back from the monitor, my hand over my mouth. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how any of this could be happening. It wasn't just that she was asking for help, though that was a big part of it. It was that my name is Thomas. The monitor's glow was the only light in the surveillance room, a cold, unblinking eye that bathed everything in corpse blue. Outside the reinforced door, the corridor was silent except for the low hum of the ventilation system, a mechanical heartbeat counting down to something I no longer wanted to witness. My reflection stared back at me from the black glass of the right-hand screen, eyes bloodshot, skin slick with sweat, mouth hanging open like a man who'd just seen his own obituary. On the left screen, Rachel stood motionless in front of the 4 paintings she had arranged with such deliberate care. The 4 paintings weren't just a cry for help. They were a carefully coded map meant only for the person watching the feed. The green forest at first glance. It's a peaceful woodland scene, but the kind Rachel used to paint when she was calm. Hidden in the swirling brushstrokes of leaves and light are the faint, repeated words, please. You only see them when you lean in close, the way a watcher behind a monitor would. The old stone well, a dark, moss-covered well in a clearing. The trailing lines of color that look like wind or mist actually spell help over and over, looping down into the black mouth of the well like a scream disappearing into the depths. The house on the island, a solitary cottage surrounded by water under a stormy sky. The waves and clouds are made of tiny, ghost-like letters that form the word me. From a distance, it's just turbulent weather. Up close, the entire seascape is her begging to be seen as an individual, not an object on a screen. The old-fashioned movie theater. This one is the most disturbing. The marquee is blank, but the light spilling from the doors and windows is composed of one name repeated hundreds of times, Thomas. The letters glow faintly, like projector light, spelling out the narrator's real name across the canvas. Taken together, arranged on the sofa in the exact order the camera would read them, left to right, top to bottom, the hidden messages form. A single, desperate sentence only the watcher can see. Please help me, Thomas. She has never been told my name. She has never seen my face. Yet she knows exactly who is on the other side of the lens. And she is painting directly to me. She was looking straight into the camera, straight at me. I had never felt so seen in my life. My finger hovered over the green button, noteworthy, then the red emergency, then fell away. Both felt useless. Now, whatever this was, it had already gone past noteworthy and emergency. It was intimate, personal. She raised one hand slowly, palm open, and pressed it against the lens from her side. The camera didn't move, but the image rippled, as though her hand had touched the glass of my face was inches from. I jerked back. The temperature in the room plummeted. Frost spider-webbed across the monitor from the corners inward, crystallizing around her painted plea. Plel, CLPL Mr. CLPL Mr. letters weren't hidden anymore. They burned livid white against the swirling colors, pulsing like arteries under skin. A sound escaped me, half sob, half laugh. "How do you know my name?" My voice cracked in the sterile air. "I never told anyone here my real name. I signed everything T. Red." Rachel tilted her head, listening. Then she smiled, not the serene smile she wore while painting, but something small and sharp and ancient. She walked to the easel, picked up a fresh canvas, and turned it toward the camera for the first time. It was already painted, a perfect, high-definition portrait of the surveillance room I was sitting in right now, down to the scuff marks on the floor, the flickering fluorescent tube overhead, the sweat beads sliding down my temple, and in the chair, staring back at himself with my own horrified face, was me, in the bottom right corner of her painting. In tiny, perfect letters, "Your turn, so on." The lights in my room died. Emergency red bulbs kicked in, bathing everything in blood. On the screen, Rachel's room remained brightly lit. She waved once cheerful, polite, then picked up a wide brush and began painting over the portrait of me with thick, wet black dot, stroke, dot, stroke, dot, stroke, dot. Each brush stroke erased a part of the room behind me in real time. First the far wall vanished into tarry void, then the water cooler, then the bolted down desk. I watched in the monitor as the blackness crept toward my chair like spilled ink. I lunged for the red button and slammed it. Nothing green button. Nothing green button. I grabbed the keyboard and typed, fingers slipping on the keys. "Who are Yohot is this? Place help Metha." Words appeared on her screen inside the room. She read them, looked up, and shook her head slowly, mouthed a gentle, pitying expression. Then she wrote on the canvas in huge dripping letters that filled the feed, "We are the exhibitr, the audience becomes exhibithat, is the CONTR, exhibither." Black paint reached the edge of my chair. I felt it cold, wet, clinging like tar, closing over my shoes. My legs went numb. I tried to stand and couldn't. On her side, Rachel stepped back, admiring her work. She blew a kiss toward the Camerata ward. Methan turned and walked calmly into the bathroom area. I'd never seen. The door closed behind her. The screen went black. My monitors flickered once, then displayed a perfect, live feed of me frozen in the chair, mouth open, eyes wide, black paint climbing my chest like a living thing. Above my head, in the same swirling, hidden letter style she had perfected, words began to appear, written by an unseen hand. PLACHELPL, PLACHEL. The frost on the glass thawed into dripping red letters that ran down the screen like blood. "Your shift starts," Now he tried to scream, but the sound never left my throat. The room lights came back up bright, merciless white, and in the corner of my vision, just at the edge of the camera's blind spot, I felt her arrive, waiting, watching me, the way I had watched her. The green button glowed softly, inviting. It is my job, after all, to press it when something noteworthy happens. The surveillance rooms read emergency. Lights had bled into a sickly amber by the time I forced myself to look away from the monitor, away from the fresh black canvas that now showed nothing but my own frozen, screaming face. The air tasted metallic, like I'd been chewing on copper wire, and every breath came shallow, as though the walls themselves were inhaling what little oxygen remained. I stumbled to the locker room, hands shaking so badly I could barely work the combination, desperate for any scrap of reality outside, this tomb of a building. But the locker was wrong. Inside hung a woman's black dress, the same one Rachel had worn the day. She painted the movie theater. Folded neatly beneath it was a single sheet of heavy art paper. On it, in the same swirling, half-hidden script she used in her paintings, were words addressed directly to me. Tomasi want to know who I was. Look closer. I didn't want to. God. Help me, I didn't. But the door to the surveillance room had already sealed itself behind me with a pneumatic hiss that sounded like a dying sigh. The only way left was forward. I returned to the chair. The right hand monitored, the one that had always been nothing but a logging terminal, now displayed a folder labeled Rachel_VOSS_ingest_001.mp4. The cursor moved on its own. The file opened. The video was old, grainy, shot on a camcorder that shook in someone's terrified hands. A date stamp glowed in the corner. July 14th, 1997. A teenage girl, no older than 17, sat in what looked like the same room I was watching now, but brighter, newer. Same layout, same furniture, same blind corner where the bathroom hid. The girl was painting furiously, tears cutting clean tracks through the dust on her cheeks. She kept glancing at the camera with pure animal terror. A man's voice, calm and clinical, spoke off screen. Subject 001, Rachel Voss, age 17. Day 1147 of containment. Note the continued attempts at communication via artwork. Fascinating persistence. The girl Rachel whispered to the lens, lips trembling. If anyone ever watches this. My name is Rachel Emily Voss. I was kidnapped from outside the Cineplex on Maple Street, July 12th, 1997. They said it was a medical study, paid volunteer work, $10,000. I needed the money for art school. They drugged me in the parking lot. When I woke up, I was here. There are others. We hear them through the walls at night. They take us one by one. They make us forget. They make us paint what they want. Please, find my mum. Tell her I'm still. The video skipped, static shrieking like a banshee. When it cleared, the date stamp read, the 3rd of November, 2008. Same room, same corner camera. But now Rachel looked 30, maybe 35, hair streaked grey, eyes hollow. She held a newborn wrapped in a hospital blanket against her chest, rocking it gently, singing a lullaby with no tune. Off-screen voice, colder now. Subject 001 has successfully carried specimen 047 to term. Note the maternal bond in useful data for phase 3. Rachel looked straight into the lens, tears falling onto the baby's forehead. They told me if I was good, they'd let me keep her. They lied. They always lie. Another skip. April 22nd, 2015. Rachel now unmistakably the woman I'd been watching. For 3 years, sat on the sofa cradling a little girl of maybe 5. The child was painting with her mother, both of them crying silently. The little girl's canvas showed a crude stick figure family under a yellow sun. Rachel mouthed to the camera, "I'm sorry, baby," Mummy tried. The final clip. 09/09/2023. Rachel. Alone again, older, thinner, but with the same fire in her eyes I'd seen when she arranged the 4 paintings for me. She held up a mirror to the lens my lens, and behind her reflection I saw it. The room was filled with hundreds of paintings stacked like a madman's library, every canvas screaming the same hidden phrases in different languages, different styles, different decades. She pressed her lips to the glass and whispered one last time, voice raw, "They need a new set of eyes every few years, Thomas. Fresh ones. Ones that still believe the world is sane. When you see this, it means you're the next watcher. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I left you a door." The video ended. The left monitor, the live feed flared back to life. Rachel stood in the center of her room, smiling the small, sharp, ancient smile I now recognized as centuries old. She raised her hand in a gentle wave. Then she stepped backward into the blind corner. She disappeared into moments ago in my timeline. The wall rippled like water where she touched it. And on my side of the screen, in the exact same corner of my surveillance room, the concrete wall shimmered the same way. A door appeared that had never been there before, painted on it, in fresh, dripping letters. My turn to WATCH. The handle turned on its own. I never hit the red button. I never called for help. Because when the door opened, Rachel stepped through, solid, smelling of turpentine and old tears, and placed a gentle finger on my lips. She whispered, "Your shift is over. Mine just began." She sat in the chair I had warmed for 3 years. The feed on the left monitor flickered, then showed me standing behind her in the room I thought was hers, staring up at a camera I could no longer see. The right monitor displayed a new folder. Thomas_read_ingest_001.mp for somewhere far away. I heard the soft click of a door locking forever, and Rachel began to paint.